Good morning and welcome back to Planner Craft. So today I'm going to do a little bit on warping text. So for this project you could use a vintage font like we did yesterday if you want to, or if you want to concentrate on something more modern you can do. So today's document I'm going to set up a little bit different, and I already have put in the size, and this is the size of my adhesive sheet I'm going to be using this afternoon. So 6x6, DPO 96, and I'll put it in inches just so it's nice and easy to set this bit up. Now for today we're going to do something different, and we're going to tick the create artboard box. So the reason I've done that is because my material is smaller than 12 by 12, I can put it sort of into a container, so in this case the artboard, and then I can use that container to resize it accurately when we get into canvas.
Your mum Carol's in.
Hi Mum, hi Carol, hi Lily Grace, hi Sarah Lou. There we go. I think Tracy might be a bit late today.
Yeah, she's picking up a little from you.
Yeah. So I'm going to go to create.
And I'm here doing the comments if anybody's interested.
Oh. So because our adhesive goes to the edge of that 6 inches, I'm not worried about putting margins in or anything like that. And let me just finish off what Ian was saying. Ian was saying he's doing comments. So if you do have any questions at any point or want me to go back over stuff, just put it in the comments and Ian will tell me to slow down. And tell me off. Okay. So today I'm going to go for a sentiment that is music is what feelings sound like. It's something that we've used before for a canvas, and this time we're going to go a little bit smaller and do it as a card.
That's what I do saying editing morning TV.
Okay, so first of all I'm going to use the pen tool to create a path. And I'm going to start off with the biggest word, which is feelings. And give it its music. I kind of want it to swish a bit.
Do you want me to put the sentiment in the comments?
Yes, please. So I'm just altering my points so I get the path to a point where I'm happy with it. So if we do it level, it kind of looks a bit boring, to be honest. So I still think it's going to look slightly better if we kind of do it slightly wonky. So we're going to have a very soft curve and a diagonal line. So if we look at where our feelings comes in our sentiment, it's not quite in the middle, so we're going to put it not quite in the middle.
Wendy's joined us.
Hi Wendy.
20 days.
Yeah. So I'm going to go to my text tool, and if we wait until our little text tool becomes a T with a squiggly line, that means it's going to be text on the path. And we can click and we can type feelings. And we're going to want it bigger than that. And we're going to choose a different font. Now Arial wouldn't work because it's almost too thin to really get any benefit from using the adhesive sheet. So you want something that's going to be quite bold or has a lot of kind of swooshy, technical term, that's swooshy. So script font or something like that. So I'm just going to scroll through these. I remember what I was saying yesterday about not choosing fonts that have like a texture, so better work won't work for this. go for, I think copper plate's going to be really boring. Yeah. Oh, that one's funky. Let's go for that one. This vintage is going to probably end up more 70s, I think, today. Just all see the mood I'm in. I go up to 144 and then we can bring it down little bit by little bit until we get exactly where we want it. And remember, at any point we can alter where it sits on the path just by using our green handle, our red handle and our alignment. So I'm going to put it so that it's centred, and then everything else can kind of align to the edge of these letters. So I'm happy with the flow that we have up to here, and at this point it's kind of breaking apart as it's coming back off that curve. So there's two ways we can handle this. We can adjust the path so we can get it where we want it. So it kind of looks like it wants to go up that way. Or we can leave the path as is and instead we can adapt our character spacing. Now at this point I'm going to leave this and I'm going to carry on with the rest of my sentiment, because I want to make sure that I keep this path as is. I can come back and do that when we've kind of finalised everything else and we're absolutely 100% happy with our font choices. Okay, so I'm going to go with these sound like, I think. I'm just going to tweak that, just thinking. And I'm just going to move that way a little bit. Just so that we have a bit of better space down here. So our next section is sound like. So you could do it so that you have it in like a banner. You could do it so that you put basic shape and knock it out of that. Or you could just do it as normal text. So I think for this one, because we've done normal text here, it would look quite funky to kind of do it as being knocked out of a shape. And let's think. I'm going to rough out an idea. So remember, nothing is set in stone until we go to convert to curves. So we can work our way through and play as much as we want. So because I want to make sure that this bit is going to be vertical, I will join from this end so we can go and press and hold shift so that we get it as a true right angle. And I'm going to take it to about there and close the path. Now this curve isn't exactly where I want it, but it doesn't matter at this point, so don't get too hung up on it, because we can go back and we can start to play with it. So I'm going to kind of push this curve up over and above our node here, and if we're going to do that side, you want to mirror it down this side. So now I'm going to fill that with black, and at this moment in time all I'm looking for is kind of basic silhouettes, so I'm only going to use black and white. You can always come back and start to bring in things like colours and textures, so you can kind of almost mock up your design before you actually create it. So we can see that we're going to have this join here. So what you need to be thinking about is, do you want that join to be welded so that it's all one piece, which in some ways would help when you're transferring your design. Would you instead want to put a white line between the two so that they end up being two separate items? Again, it really depends on how confident you're feeling with in terms of aligning your adhesive. So I'm probably going to go for a weld there actually. And I'm going to go back to my pen tool. And I'm going to mirror this line. Again, it's not going to be perfect straight off. I don't think it has to be. And I'm going to put a stroke of white on it, which is basically the absence of a few colours. I'm going to make it bigger, and I'm also going to, if I bring this up so you can see it a bit better, go down to my pressure, add a dot in the middle, and just slightly tweak our pressure. There we go. So now we can fix that one. And I'm going to go for a sound to kind of follow that same path. So what we can do is we can select our path. We can duplicate it once, and just because I like the look of that, I'm going to pop in another one, and I'm going to take the stroke off of it. I'm going to press T to go to my text tool. I'm going to try and get it to hover over the top so that we get our little squiggly. There we go. And it doesn't matter where you need to click because we can alter that after. And we can put in sound. And at the moment it's typing in black, that's fine. I'm going to just take it all back to that white. And for this one, let's go for let's go for one that Ian picked yesterday. Be nice, don't crash on me. There we go. So if we put that up big, it's easy to carry on typing. I think that'll be cool there. So there will be occasions where your text kind of doesn't fit how you would expect it to when it's going up and over these. So I'm going to go to character, and that way we can start to edit the individual characters. So our N, when you compare it to our L, is actually a lot taller. So I'm going to manually just reduce the height of it a bit. Okay, so that's looking more like it's this size here, but it's also down below our baseline, so we can actually tweak that too. it on any character that kind of goes past where it should be. It's also a way that you can kind of control if you need to warp text as well, so we're going to do a bit more on that in a minute. And just because it looks slightly like it's not following the curve too well, I'm going to just tweak the italic of the actual character. Excuse the noisy neighbours. Okay, so I'm getting to the point where I'm happy with that. I'm just going to just tweak down here just to make that fit just a little bit better. Okay, I'm happy with that so far, and given that it's about music, it would look really cool if we put in another 3 lines to kind of mimic the stave. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy the first line here, there we go. So at this point don't panic too much. So with these last 3 curves, there we go. Without the sound like being selected, we're going to go to Layer, Expand Stroke, which turns it into a shape, and then we can use our rectangle tool to make a shape that we can then subtract from our lines. So I'm thinking that's kind of looking okay, but I think it's going to need to twist just to make it make sense with that text. So we can try that too. And we can always bring that top line back to the front so you can actually kind of preview how that angle's going to work. Yep, I'm happy with that. So first things first, I'm going to convert my rectangle to curves, and that means that we get our node points. And just here where it's looking a little bit like it needs a slightly different angle, we can just tweak it so that it starts to look like it's more in line with that S, and maybe just a little bit of a tweak on that E. Then we're going to select our let me get to them. Come on. There. So we've got our 3 curved lines selected and our rectangle. And if I go to subtract at this point, you would expect it to automatically be able to work that out. But it's not going to do that for you. But it's a good thing for you to learn to see why it doesn't do that. So basically what it does is, if you have multiple listed shapes that you're subtracting, it subtracts all the shapes from the bottom layer. So rather than it working the way that you think it's going to work, where it's going to just subtract that top shape from all the ones underneath, it works the other way around. So we can go undo. And if we then duplicate the shape, so that's Control and J or Command and J if you're on a Mac, you can then go through one by one. So I'm going to do our bottom rectangle and our top curve and subtract, and you can see that in our little preview it misses. Then for the next one we're going to subtract, and again we've got this gap, and with that one I'm going to subtract there. So we now have our stave with our subtracted shape. And if you wanted to, you could add a little decoration down here, but for now we can think about that later. So now that we've done that, I'm kind of looking at these feelings and thinking that F could actually be bigger, so that we actually bring that tail down here. So we can go and just alter it a character at a time. So if we go up to 288, that's kind of what I'm thinking, but it's gone a bit too far. So let's go 250. A little bit more. I'm just going to come up level with where our box is, and I'm totally ignoring what this is doing at the moment because we can sort that out after. There we go. And it's come up a little too high, so we can fiddle. There we go. So now if we select our G.
Comments are very quiet today.
Hmm?
Comments are very quiet today.
Hopefully you're all fascinated. Let us know if you are still watching. And I'm going to use tracking to just nudge it slightly. Misbehaved today just because. Come on. There we go. And there's a little less ping back. And that way we've sorted out our flow here, and we've sorted our flow here. Now with our eye, because right, okay, if I go back to 0, just so you can see. When you let the computer kind of do its own thing, with certain pairings of letters, it will default to a different character. So, for example, it would happen a lot with the EE, because you've got that kind of repeated character. Or if you've got an F and an F.
2 L's.
Yeah, 2 L's, anything like that. It tends to have, in script fonts only, or usually, like a set of characters which are 2 that are joined together. So at the moment with the L and the I, you can see it does this lovely neat thing where it's got the dot of the I is the top of the L. Okay, but as soon as you start tweaking anything, so if I go to just to 3%, well, I did it 1, but you can see that straight away it's gone, oh right, they don't want it to be together, so I'm going to go and do something different. Okay. So at that point you have to find a different way of working. So that's when you would do your convert to curves and start manually moving characters. So like this N is going to end up twisting, I think. Just sort out the little bit in that G. And the same here, you're going to want to sort that out when we come to do our curves rather than our letters. Okay, so we've got our feeling sound like, and now we need to work on the music is what. And the music would also be cool if we could do a big kind of music across here. So if we're going to do that, first of all, select everything and just make sure that we've got this alignment correct. Is that our door? Okay. So to do this next bit, I'm going to set myself a guide. Now if you're working in Illustrator, number one, you can do what I'm about to do totally not manually. You can get the computer to do it for you. But you also have the ability to turn any shape into a guide. So when we're in Affinity, we have to fake it a little bit. So I'm going to pop in a rectangle, and this goes from this edge of the design to this edge of the design. Then I'm going to pop in another one that's going to come down to about there, so that I have like a sort of clearance where I can work. So if we then weld those two together, and if they're not quite lining up, just double check that they're where they should be. That's better. And I'm going to go for the pen tool and with the F in this kind of in the centre of this curve, I'm going to click and add a point, and then so just there. I'm going to go to this node here, and I'm going to go to convert, and I'm going to have it as a smooth point, which is the middle option. And I'm going to extend the arms of my node so we get a nice curve. So remember, this is only a guide, so it's like a rough sort of shape that you're kind of mapping out where you want your text to go. So at this point, if you go, right, okay, well actually I want to bring that down. Bear in mind, you've got to leave room for your is what. Take that to about there actually. And just bring that arm down. Okay. So because we only want it as a guide, rather than filling it in with black, we're going to take the fill out of it. We're going to go to our stroke, and we're just going to put it in a nice bright blue. And again, it doesn't matter about your pressure and everything else. So what we will do is put it down to a hairline and reset the pressure. It's literally just there to give you a guide as to where you're manipulating your text to. And because it's a guide, we're going to lock it. So this means that we shouldn't be able to kind of accidentally manipulate the guide instead of manipulating the text. So I'm going to do a capital music, and you can put it in black. And we're going to go nice and big. And let's think, what sort of text should we go for? So you could go for a font that you've already used at this point. I won't go to any more than 3 fonts in the same document if you can help it. That's a definite no-no. So if we look at the rest of our design, quite like that one, but I don't think it works for this project. Ooh, that one's kind of funky. Let's go for that one. That gives us an opportunity to do something really cool with the adhesive. So at this point, kind of looking at this height of the character rather than filling the width here, because we're going to do a lot of work with stretching characters to get them into the right shape. So like for instance, you can see that our M at this point is almost backwards because we need this side to be where it's longer to be kind of over here. So before I go any further, this is going to be the first bit of text where I'm actually going to convert it to curves, because you can't plan the rest of it past this point. And when you do, it comes in as group, so we're just going to ungroup it. And I'm going to go for the C to go back there. I'm just going to tweak it slightly just so it fits in here. And put the I to the bottom. And then this music is going to stretch, well, capital M music. But before I do that, like I said, it's kind of better to go round the bigger way because we're going to pull that leg down here. So this is when we're going to get involved with our nodes. Now what I would advise is where you have some inner detail like this, leave it alone until more or less the last. So concentrate on the outside of your shape first. So for this first bit, I'm going to take the nodes that are kind of just forming this bottom of this leg, and we're going to stretch it downwards. Now this is going to look weird. It's a bit like stretching plasticine, so you're going to find that you do get some narrowing just because of where your curves were pointing in the first place. But don't worry, we'll soon have that sorted. Now I'm going to go to the bowl of the M, and I'm going to have that come down to about there, and then this leg's going to come back there. Everything right?
Yeah, I'm just experimenting.
Oof. Okay, so just to kind of iron out the initial kinks, I'm just going to sort out any of the nodes where we've got little handles, because now obviously they're doing much bigger gaps. So we can start to then go, well actually, I want that a little bit fatter down here. So we've got that bit here, and yeah, kind of like that. Just going to delete that node there, just so that we don't get too many points. Remember what I was saying about a node, if it's square, is a corner. So we don't want corners on a straight line, do we? So because this shape here is moved, we need to move this shape here. But obviously we've got our little detail in the middle in the way. So first things first, I'm going to move that over. And again, I'm not worrying too much about where it's going, because I will do all the fixing after for that bit. And just move that down and across. And if you find that you've got a character where you've got lots of nodes together, even when it's large, just slim them down a bit. You'll find you get a much better shape for it. So now we can tweak this bit, because we finished off doing the kind of the outside work. Are you okay?
Yeah.
Yeah? If there's anything up you can say.
No, it's alright, it's nothing to do with what you're doing.
Okay, so now that we've got our M sorted, we can move on to our U. And what I'm going to do is, I'm going to kind of concentrate on the bowl of the U here, so that's sitting on the baseline. I'm going to kind of ignore this kind of drop here, just because I know I need this character to be bigger and wider. And we can always come back and tweak that if we want to. To be honest, at this stage I probably won't. And I like how it's kind of higgledy-piggledy, so. Now, because these are all kind of stretched a bit, you still need that eye to a certain extent to kind of get that visual repetitiveness of the bits inside. So I'm just going to stretch it this way, just so it looks like it has that same almost rhythm. And same with the EC. What are you trying to do?
Set up the users on here.
You just have to do permissions. Okay, so next I'm going to go back to my text tool, if it behaves, and I just want 3 dots. And it's quicker to do it that way than it is to kind of worry about drawing them on. And then we can also make them match the text as well. So if I go to used, it will have the fonts that we've used so far.
Oh, Tracy's just joined us. Just hi.
And I'm going to kind of bring it up here. Hi Tracy. And then finally we need a little something to go in there with our is what. So I think I might go for an oval, because I'm kind of thinking like a record, looking at that. I'm going to go black, no stroke. Because we want it as an actual shape that we're going to use. I'm just going to give it a slight twist. And just need to get somewhere clear so that I can text is what. There we go. And again we will go and put that as white. Bring it down here. And we can always, if we decide that we don't like it small, we can put it in small caps or all caps. To be honest, with small caps, if it's all lowercase in the first place, you won't really see necessarily much difference. See, I could go back to the Douglas, which is what the main font is. I could go back to the Melanesia. Or I could go back to the font that we did our top bit with. But I'm just thinking, because it's going to be small, you really need it to be black. So you can go for any kind of bold font. So if we go and increase the size of that and give it a twist. I'm almost happy with that. Almost. So if I go to convert this to curves, the only thing I don't like is this second hole in the A, because it's going to be too small there and it's certainly going to be too small in that I. So I'm going to ungroup it so we can get to our individual characters. Go to my node tool. I can just delete out the offending nodes. I'm going to do the same on the eye. And also this join here is going to be a bit awkward. So if I drag down one node here, I can do it so that it has this kind of separated gap there. It looks kind of like a little robot, which is kind of funky. Now all that remains to get that absolute last bit of tweaking done, so that we're absolutely happy with our design. I'm going to hide my guide so I can see what it looks like without the shaping. Okay, so looking at that, I still think that dot in that eye is going to be way too small, so I'm going to take it out. As funky as it looks, if we then were to take that into canvas, it wouldn't work. There's no point in trying to give yourself the headache.
That's exactly what she just said to herself. Hi, robot, lol.
Okay, so I'm going to weld that together so that we can just subtract it nice and easily from our background. I'm going to convert the text to curves. And again, I'm going to ungroup it first, just so I can tweak things a little bit like that S. Just a little. And if you can't get it quite in the right place, don't worry, because you can always adjust the nodes after welding. It's just because it's got snap turned on. I'm happy with that G now. The N is where I said I was going to just tweak the angle of it a little, and we can move it just back there. So there's a little bit here where it's going to have a bit of a weird join, but we can sort that out. And we'll sort it out there once we've folded it too. But I think in terms of actual moving individual characters, that's probably pretty close. And you can see if we click on the L and the I that we've got this 2-letter character like I was saying about. So I'm going to weld that together. And then we can sort out the joins. So take that corner out because we don't want it there. Take that one out. I'm just going to extend that handle so we've got a nice smooth curve. Makes the cutter happier, makes me happier. And take out the 2 corners so that we've got a nice smooth section through there. Ding, ding, ding. And then it's just this section here. So you have 2 options here. You can either round this corner in here so that it looks like it's kind of overlap, or you can actually alter your nodes. Now I think on this one, on this occasion, because we've made that letter bigger than the rest, I'm going to keep that kind of offsetness of it. So I'm going to go to my corner rounder tool. I'm going to click on my little corner node there. I'm going to drag it up so that we have a rounded corner that goes like that. Back to layer and convert to curves, just so that we set that curve in stone before we take it to our machine. And we can also do that in places where we've got really sharp changes in direction, just because it will cut better in the long run. So each time you do, just convert it to curve to set it in stone. Okay.
So
I'm just going to round that one off. And just in there too. And there. And it's worth spending the time to do that. It's little things like that that make your cutter much happier. Especially if you're cutting stamps. Right. So, we'll add those 2 together.
Mine quite clearly says no design, no stamp kits.
Oh dear. We won't be that cruel, would we? No. So that gives you your 2-tone design. So now your challenge is to go and make one. And we'll see you back here at 2 PM.
Yes.
Then I will be cutting this out using some adhesive sheet and some acetate. So we'll see where we go from there. So take care.
Yeah, got Lou at 12.
Yep, Pete at 12:30. No Leslie today. And so you got plenty of time for lunch and to get your file done. And we'll see you at 2. Bye.